What is going on, guys? The Steeler here, back again, talking about a very interesting post-E3 2018 interview with Xbox head of games, Phil Spencer. Now, yes, he talks about the next generation of consoles, what you can expect on those consoles that you do not necessarily see today on current generation systems, and so much more, including surprising sales figures for both Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2. These are surprising and surpassing even Microsoft's best internal projections for the games. You know what, say what you will about Phil, but this guy is transparent, he's open, he's honest, and it's crazy because you still have people saying, bring back Donnie D, he brought us all the best games and exclusives for the first several years of the Xbox's life cycle. Well, Donnie D was the head of Xbox, yes, but Phil Spencer was the guy controlling what exclusives made it to the box. Those were Phil's games at the beginning of the generation. He greenlit those and brought them to Donnie to get them approved and funded. So Donnie just kind of looked at this paper and said, yeah, that looks cool. Sunset Overdrive, I have no clue what that is, but sure, go ahead, yeah. And Phil's ideas, those games he brought forth, were approved. So keep that in mind. I think Phil deserves a bit more credit. Now, when it comes to the next generation Xbox, Phil Spencer did allude to it on the E3 2018 stage. If you saw my recent Xbox Scarlett video, you heard it yourself. Once again, the level of transparency there was absolutely phenomenal. So naturally, Jeff Gertzman asked him about that in this interview. This is what Phil Spencer had to say.
So when you pie in the sky, think about like what that next box is. When you start this process, like maybe even pre-R&D, like, hey, what's possible? But when you sit and look at the Xbox brand, the Xbox line of consoles, and you think about that next thing, what are the things that you look at and go, well, we have to have this?
Yeah, and you can watch, we're pretty open about some of this stuff. If you watch what we're doing on the Xbox consoles right now with like variable refresh rate, looking at higher frame rate capability, I think frame rate is an area where consoles can do more, just in general. Yeah. When you look at the balance between CPU and GPU in today's consoles, they're a little bit out of whack relative to what's on the PC side. So I think there's work that we can do there. So I think there's a lot to do. I think there's more immersion that we can put into games. I think there's more performance we can put into games. I think letting people start quicker is a good thing.
Now, one of the biggest complaints I hear about the Xbox One X is, how come every game ain't 60 frames per second? Well, I've explained this 1,000 times, yet this question persists. It's a CPU bottleneck, meaning the CPU is not fast enough to feed that 6 teraflops GPU the information it needs to double up on the frame rate. You can always lower resolution on the GPU side. That's largely pushed by, of course, the GPU, but the CPU needs that overhead to feed the GPU every one of those frames. If there's not enough overhead on that CPU, it cannot double from 30 to 60 and do that effectively while holding that FPS during any kind of explosions or alpha effects intensive moment. So just to clarify, it's not that 6 teraflops number that you guys have heard that's holding back the X from hitting 60 frames. Of course, you could drop resolutions as low as 720p on the X, but the CPU is just not quick enough to feed the GPU those additional frames. So you're just never going to get to 60 on some of these games. Therefore, developers lock it at 30 for consistency's sake. That's why you don't have 60 on all of these games. With the next generation, Phil says the CPU and the GPU will be more in tune with one another, more balanced, meaning they can support each other properly, meaning more 60 FPS games. It's not just going to be first-person shooters and racers. You could have 60 FPS versions of Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6. It won't matter provided the developer makes a conscious effort to achieve that. Also, as I covered recently, you'll be looking at increases to physics, destruction, AI, simulation, animation, and more. It's a win-win for everybody involved. And these things are really what the next generation Xbox is going to focus on to really differentiate itself from its predecessors. You're going to have a really massive leap in quality in many areas you just did not see in this generation of consoles. Now combine that with one hell of a GPU and you are looking at some games that are absolutely stunning, and they're doing things that you've never seen before on console. Like I said, that's pretty awesome to me. So I liked everything I heard there. An increase to frame rate, aka performance. He also mentions boot times and startup times. That's great. He also mentions immersion, meaning graphical fidelity, things like textures, lighting, ambient occlusion, tessellation, all of the goods, the things that make Gears of War 4 and Uncharted 4 look so great. But he also goes into detail on some recent games that Microsoft have released, Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2. Now, one of the biggest fears for Game Pass, at least for some people, were that, oh my god, Microsoft's money will disappear. How are they making a profit? Well, Game Pass isn't hurting these sales. Actually, according to Phil Spencer, Game Pass is increasing sales.
And we see that in Game Pass today. I mean, people in Game Pass, there's two stats that always surprise me. One is I think on a monthly average, a Game Pass player plays 4 or 5 more games than a non-Game Pass player. They just go and click, which is, and they're more games. So that's not their total game. They're playing a lot more games. They're also buying more games, which at first I'm like, that surprised me. Okay, you're in Game Pass, but what happens is just as they're turning on their console more, obviously to go play more games,
right?
They're getting connected to more friends. That's also true of people in Game Pass. And then they go out and buying more games, even though they're part of this subscription. And the other thing I'll say on Game Pass with Sea of Thieves and State of Decay, too, the 2 games we've launched in, it's just 2 games. So I don't know that means we have like complete data. But on those 2 games, we sold more copies of those games than we expected. Like
Interesting.
I mean, we have our internal forecast.
Yeah.
You can't do an A/B test of what if it was in and what if it was out. So I don't have the before and after on both scenarios. But I guess people just have to trust me, whatever that means for a video game exec. But that we had our forecast for how many copies of Sea of Thieves we were going to sell, and we sold more than we did, significantly more. And the same thing was true of State of Decay, even though both of them were in Game Pass.
Right.
So this is absolutely phenomenal news, and if you guys remember when Game Pass announced that they were including all first-party exclusives, I defended this adamantly. One, it's very pro-consumer. Game Pass is already a steal without these exclusives. Secondly, this is a must for many people now, at the very least, for these exclusives. You win as a consumer, but we had people out there that were very upset, worried about Microsoft's money for some reason, not really sure why. As a consumer, I say you should always worry about what you are getting, how you are benefiting, not if Microsoft are losing money. But here's the thing, they clearly are not. Not only are subscriptions up, but so are the sales of the same game that is in that $10 subscription. It's very surprising in a lot of different ways to, I'm sure, a lot of different people. So this is the part of the video where I'll ask you guys to let me know what you think down below in the comments. Are you surprised? Maybe not so much. Also, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps. And maybe share this video with a friend if you get a minute or two. And of course, to the newcomers, feel free to subscribe for more. I did a video on the recently leaked Xbox codename Scarlett. Tons of great information there. Also did a video yesterday on the recently released figures from one research group that put the Xbox One sales numbers at, well, hey, let's just say much higher than what a lot of people want to think they are actually at. Good stuff there as well. So once more, guys, thanks so much for the support. I'm Dealer. I'm out.